So my job checks out. My boss Charlie starts telling this story. 'Cause I had to get it like a job, like a real job done, and which doesn't please me none too well. But so be it. And so you look for circumstances that work with you well. And so anyway, we're sitting there making this wall. I'm thinking Charlie's a pretty cool guy.
You're making this what?
We're building a wall on
Oh.
Fort Carson,
Okay.
a retaining wall over the hospital. And he looks at me and goes, I got an unbelievable story to tell. So he starts telling me this story. And talking about this guy who he beat the crap out of at some point, and it turned out to be Dog the Bounty Hunter. Because they both grew up in the same area. Wow, that's pretty crazy. And it was weird because I felt this kind of pain in me. I looked at him and I said, well, I've got an unbelievable story. He's like, what's that? I said, on my 25th birthday, I met Carlos Castaneda. And we spent 2 years with him. His jaw went straight to the ground. He actually fell over. He got back up. He said, I've never told anybody about this, but I goes to his truck. He carries a copy of Journey Exit along with him wherever he goes. Right? And he started to talk to me about, how he saw each chapter in that book as blessed. It's just something interesting that happens. It says, stopping the internal dialogue, having the mood of a warrior, diminishing self-importance. He's like, what is it? There's a reason for all that. And I looked at him and said, yeah, I think there is a reason for all that. So, what happens when you stop the internal dialogue? What happens when your mind stops chattering to itself? And I said, well, it puts you in a particular place where you're not relying on knowledge to have a taste of the world. You're having a direct experience of it. And in that direct experience, it's fully open. The possibilities are there. They're just endless. Right? And it's kind of funny because, in getting that job, you see all the fears that go into that. What kind of company is this going to be? I got to drive through Gestapo checkpoint every morning. Right? I mean, the stuff that could really make it suck becomes really apparent to you really fast. Right? And it's very interesting when you ignore that. Because you find that all that stuff that causes you to really is just your mind chattering. It is the internal dialogue itself. Or the internal monologue if it's about you. It goes on and on and on. Rambling and rambling and rambling. Right? So, to me, it was very funny because, going down to the base for a guy like me is a little weird. I'm not really into that kind of thing, I kind of try to stay away from it. And here I'm immersing myself in it. Doing heavy construction work at 40, after doing it most of my life anyway. Right, so, up to task, sure. But it's very interesting when you don't consider what your mind is telling you is problematic. Because then, the direct experience is always right on. It's never off. I don't really want to talk too much this evening. Not really. I'd like to get that light off, though. Please.
Sure.
Because it's really annoying. Oh, that's better. Who cares if it doesn't work? I don't really care. So I want to see if we can't accomplish something. See how quiet you can be. And don't forget to breathe. Matter of fact, be very conscious of that. Don't think about it. Just take deep breaths. Don't think about why. Just take a few and you have them for days. We know about this. Let's talk about something we don't know anything about. Let's see if we can understand what dimensions are. Or we can understand where intent comes from. What its purpose is. Where we fit in that. And then, let's see if we can't shift it to where we're actually free. Anyone confused so far? Ruffling anybody's feathers, I hope not. 'Cause I've been doing this for a long time. And it's become quite apparent to me that the only way it really ends up anyway is energetic. There's a vibe that happens. So when you feel that, it kind of erases all your, what should we say? Your toxic thought. You notice that? Nod your head if yes or no. Don't just speak. Do you notice that? Do you notice the difference? At some point you have to bring your conscious mind into this. You're going to have to bring who you are in the world into this. And it's going to work on it. It's going to tear it apart. But you have to do it.
Does intent come from ego, or what are you talking about?
Intent to me is not something that is easily definable. Intent to me is a pulse from someplace none of us could even possibly fathom. But we all feel it. We all have a connection to it. It's what's looking out of our eyeballs. Right? And that unfettered is harmony. Do you understand what I'm saying? No? Intent is spirit. Intent is what causes all manifestation, all creation. Right? What we have as ego, it knows not intent, it has no relationship with it. But it sees it and mimics it. And I think when it mimics it, what we see is motive. Right? And still, it's very interesting because even when it's egoic, I think motive is so mysterious. No one really quite knows. So it's really a reflection of the unknown within us. See, so when the ego grabs hold of that, it causes the word intent to become something impossible to really grasp energetically, because it doesn't have a relationship with it. Your mind has a relationship really in this dimension, in this state of affairs. It is conditioned for this state of affairs. So anything alien to it, it's going to try to reduce it to something understandable, something comprehensible. For me, intent is the welling up of an energetic inside of you that you can't avoid. That you, no matter what you do to counter it, it's coming down the pipe. there really is no way for you to move against that flow. You see, so to me, it's like intent is the flowing of life itself. How harmonious we are in that is related to us. Right? But if we lose that attachment with ego, then all we have is intent. All we have is a relationship to it. But as long as there's a delineating mind, chopping that flow up and analyzing it in little spots, intent becomes a blurry concept. You could say intent is what keeps you from killing yourself in the worst moment of your life. You could say intent is what you get up for, really, every single day. It's why you remain conscious, cognizant, and alive. Because you can't find a reason for any of that. Not outside of this realm. It all point to here. Everything that we say is meaningful points right to here. It doesn't point outside of that. So there really is no reality that we're perceiving with the mind. See, to me, intent is of a much larger order. It's further. God's a smaller object than that. God is within intent. So it goes even beyond that concept. It's so hard to talk about, but you can experience it. Has anyone ever noticed when you think about something, and really try to hammer it down, that the vibrational feeling, the energetic feeling, goes down with it? Like when we try to embrace our confusion with our mind, do you ever notice how stale your environment goes? Do you ever notice the shift down, the opaqueness of it all? And just a minor turning that off, not needing to understand verbally. Sets the whole thing on fire. Makes me kind of wonder, who gave us language, and did they know they were screwing us up so bad? Because, I mean, you think about it. People talk about God as if it's an alien subject, something outside they can speak of. And that's okay. That's called understanding. With no depth to it. No real presence in it. And to me, I find that remarkably unbelievable. That people are satisfied with thinking about a concept about something and not having a full-blown experience of it.
Reminds me of when you tell somebody maybe what your goal is, and then it just takes all that energy away. Because you didn't need to say it. I mean, some people might think you need to say it, but sometimes it doesn't work that well.
Yeah, anything you put into the mental realm will lose its life. It will lose its glow. It has to. It's being cut off. It's being separated, isolated. That's what the mind does. It takes stupid, petty little facts and isolates them. And then makes them much bigger than they really need to be. And then elaborates on them and then builds off of them. And then, holy hell, what do you get out of that sometimes? There's a whole lot of delusional behavior. Why? Because we think too much. Right? Who really spends a large amount of time bringing forth what their real essence is? Isn't it all dictated by your society, what you talk about? Conversations you have with people are rehearsed, rehashed, had over and over again, full of holes and bullshit. You're human. It's impossible to not do that if you use your mind. Right? Because your mind cannot conceive of life at all. Hell, it doesn't even know where you're at. So it's kind of like, what Joseph Smith did. Some of that shit was right on, and then what was it? We'll just make it up and just, cover that gap. It's just, there's a big hole here, but we'll just put some paste over it. That's what the mind has to do. It doesn't have enough information to make any kind of decisions about anything. So it's basically painting a world of make-believe. Problem with make-believe is the movie ends eventually. Right? You ever seen a movie that went on forever? No. Even good TV shows stop eventually. Right? This will too. It's make-believe. Whatever your mind is perceiving is completely make-believe. Now what your heart is experiencing, this is the dichotomy we're dealing with here. Everybody wants to put it into some kind of dualistic mode. It's not. It's, that's just, what's the word I'm looking for? It's complementing. It's not at odds. You are, but it's not. Physical reality, non-physical reality, higher states, lower states, they're not at odds with each other. You have to wonder how the human being became so at odds with the very life it's living. How did that happen? How did it stop understanding what it's supposed to do? Did we stop to wonder? We're all convinced we know what we're doing, right? Based on what information? Based on a supposition at best. Right? If not a downright assumption. How much of that really has any juice for you? How much is all your belief, and your moralistic fiber, your standards, your noble ideas, how much of that really has any effect? If you're playing with people in a lesser state, you can herd them around like cattle, I'm sure of it. But how boring is that? Can you feel it? The universe itself is asking you to feel more of your heart. Can't you? Come on. Don't be so pig-headed. It's asking you. And all you have to do is do it, and it's right there with you. Intent is of no consequence in that state. It's well-being, that's intent there.